is really interesting. This is an insight. You know, we hear about Axel Rudicabana having his pot noodles and trying to throw them on people, and horrible criminals getting away with anything. I think that was a 777 bomber who was doing that, but also Axel Rudicabana saying, "I want Maltesers, I want crisps, I want this specific food." You know, we hear about people living the life of Riley in these prisons in the UK. Well, this is a new one. The moment the prison officer is filmed playing football, computer game, so FIFA, with a criminal in his cell as Justice Chiefs investigate who put the footage online. So essentially, I'm not sure if we've got the footage here, but basically a prison officer was playing a computer game with a criminal. I mean, you know, we hear stories on the opposite side where criminals and prison officers don't get along at all, and there are stabbings going on, there are attempted murders. But this is a whole other level. They're sort of buddies and pals. Well, I've got David Shipley in here, one of my favourite people. He's a former prisoner. He can tell us all about how abnormal this is. Did you ever play FIFA with your prison guard?
I did actually play video games.
You did?
I did, yes. So when I was in prison in 2020, I mean, mostly we were locked in our cells because it was COVID. But we did have an Xbox, and there were times when I'd play a bit of FIFA. I was very bad. I'm terrible at FIFA. I'm a rugby man, so I was terrible at FIFA. But I did play FIFA with my cellmate and with prison officers.
You played it with your prison officer, and that was fine. That no one filmed it. No one tried to expose you. This was a normal practice thing in the prison.
I think it is a normal practice. And I think the issue in this story is that someone secretly filmed it, and the real thing we should focus on is someone has a mobile phone they shouldn't have, and that is a problem because people shouldn't have smartphones in prison. But in my time in Wandsworth, for example, like, you know, it was generally a fairly stable wing I was on. Yeah. But there were occasionally dangerous people who came in who were really problematic, and because I and other prisoners had good relationships with some staff, when there was a difficult prisoner, we would have a word with them, and that prisoner would be taken away. There was a time when a guy came to me, came to my cell and threatened me, said he was going to attack me and kill me, and I had to square up to him. And afterwards, I went to spoke to other mates on the wing, and they said, "Oh, he shoved a guy over in the yard, an old man. He's been threatening other people." So we went and spoke to officers that we trusted quietly. Yeah. And they moved him off another wing. And those kind of interactions, which actually stop violence, only happen if you trust officers. So in that situation, yes, like that was an officer who had come into my cell and hung out with me, who had talked to me about the books I was reading, who'd maybe like watched some TV with me, who had built a healthy, very boundary relationship. And that actually is okay, I think.
I mean, I can agree with you on that, but I can also think that why should we be thinking about, you know, fostering good relationships between prison guards and prisoners when it doesn't seem to be, you know, yes, I think people who are in there for lesser offences, I think that's totally fine, but I also don't really appreciate, you know, terrorists, mass murderers getting an easy run and cozying up to these prison guards. I mean, we've even had instances of, you know, more further on relationships, let's just say, between prison guards and prisoners. Is that something you witnessed when you were on the inside?
Sure. So I think sexual relationships between prison officers and prisoners are absolutely wrong. And I think the issue here is comparing those to a prison officer building rapport with prisoners. Right. It's very incorrect. So prison should be a place which stops the public being at risk, and it also needs to be a place that makes people less likely to commit crime. Of course, mass murderers like Axel Rudicabana, you know, or appalling terrorists should not be allowed access to these things. No one thinks that. But the vast majority of prisoners are in for a relatively short amount of time and will be released one day. So the job of the prison has to be giving them the best opportunity to be less likely to commit crime afterwards. That protects everyone. So in an ideal world, they would be out every day, you know, working, studying, doing something in the prison. Instead, we lock them in spaces that are really small for often 22 hours a day. And in that situation, if you were locked in a tiny room 22 hours a day...
But these are criminals, David.
No, they are. But what do we want to happen after they're released? Do we want them to commit more crime? Do we want them to be more addicted to drugs? Or do we want them to have developed skills such that they can go and live a decent life? So unless we lock them up forever, we've got to do something sensible with them. If we put people in tiny cells all day, essentially their options to pass that time are get depressed, self-harm, start attacking other people, take drugs, drink, and an alternative to that is watch some TV or play a video game. In comparison, that's relatively sensible. I would prefer that we get every prisoner out of their cell every day studying or working or training so that they are doing something productive every day, and then when they're released they can go and get a job and pay taxes. That's what we should all
That's
want.
definitely more the Nordic type of way, and it has been, well, it has kind of been quite successful actually in terms of you're squinting there. Is it not? I mean, I've seen some very lax Norwegian prisons and things like that where, yeah, they don't have a very high reoffending rate because they do actually allow these people to foster good relationships with communities, etc. And then when they get out, they don't go and reoffend. So I agree with you. There's definitely statistics to back up that getting people out there and not suppressing their freedoms is a better thing. But, you know, there's also the American model, which is quite hardcore, let's just say, or at least from what we see over here in the media. Would you want the UK to go down that line? I mean, the Shadow Justice Secretary says the prison is not a holiday camp. And essentially that another prisoner said that essentially they were living a very luxurious life while behind bars.
I mean,
did you live a very luxurious life behind bars?
No, prison isn't luxurious. You know, imagine being in a space half the size of this studio where you and I have to sleep, eat, go to the bathroom, brush our teeth, and that's where we are for 20
Sounds like a
hours
London flat, to be honest.
I mean, essentially, yes.
I agree with you, I think.
But to answer the question, like, what should we do? We shouldn't do what the Americans do or what the Norwegians do. We should do what the British Army does.
Okay.
So the British Army, if you are in the army and you commit an offence, you go to a place called Colchester, MCTC Colchester.
Yeah.
And Colchester has a 9% reoffending rate. And what they do is every day, every prisoner there gets a bespoke personal set of programs they have to do because they work out, why are you here? What's gone wrong? Like, is it addiction? Is it, you know, drugs, gambling, violence issues? And they get them doing stuff every day. So every day they do PT, they have to work out, they have to do things, they have to study, they have to train, they have to work.
Right.
And that actually solves reoffending far more than anything else we do or in our normal prisons or anything else that the Norwegians do or the Americans do. So we know that works. And I think that's what we do as a prison system. It's a prison system that actually makes prisoners work and improve themselves during their sentence, not sit in the cell losing their minds.
Or playing FIFA, maybe.
Or playing FIFA.
You know, the government sources have basically defended the Guard and said that playing video games helps build relationships, as you said. The Ministry of Justice said, we've removed those posts immediately and we are investigating. Those who break prison rules will be punished and can face extra time behind bars. Well, there you go. Maybe our whole prison system needs reform. Maybe they really do. That's David Shipley. He's a former prisoner and he's got some really good ideas on maybe how we could have less people on the inside and have more recuperated individuals on the outside. Thank you so much for joining us.